My name is Parker Gainey, and I will be doing a visual riffing video essay over Sebastiao Salgado, a Brazilian social documentary photographer and photojournalist. The goal of my project is to provide a brief history of Salgado, analyze his photos using three of Lester's 6 elements of analysis, and lastly, provide a riff on one of Salgado's works. Without further ado, let's begin. I included here a photo of Sebastiao Salgado. A brief history. Salgado was born on February 8, 1944 in Brazil. He initially trained as an economist, earning a master's degree in economics from the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. He began work as an economist for the International Coffee Organization, traveling to Africa on missions for the World Bank. It is here he started taking photographs seriously. In 1973, he chose to abandon his career as an economist and began focusing on photography, initially working on news assignments before eventually moving towards documentary-type work. He initially worked with Sigma and Gamma, but in 1979, he joined Magnum Photos. After a while, he left Magnum Photos with his wife, Lilia Wanik Salgado, and formed his own agency, Amazonas Images. Many of his projects have been published as books, such as Other Americas, Workers, Migrations, and Genesis. In the 1990s, he and his wife worked on the restoration of a part of the Atlantic forest which is located in Brazil. In between 2004 to 2011, Salgado worked on his project Genesis, which aimed to present the unblemished faces of nature and humanity. His work consisted of photographs of landscapes, wildlife, and human communities. Other Americas. Published in 1986, this project shows the everyday life of peasants living in Brazil, Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Guatemala. Just by glancing at these photos, you could see just how different life was in Latin America. I personally find this work to be beautiful as well as eye-opening because it shows the struggles and the hardships that people in these countries are facing. Life here in America is very different. Workers. Published in 1993, Salgado took the photos of workers from around the world. Looking at these photos from a personal perspective, these photos are exciting and tell a lot. The photos in this album range from intense and dangerous working conditions to more safer and peaceful conditions. Looking at these photos from a technical perspective, it is apparent that these photos are shot in black and white. But I believe the use of black and white has helped to make some of these photos, such as the mining photo, more dark and gloomy and highlights the intense conditions. Migrations. Migrations was published in April of 2000. Sebastiao Salgado traveled to 40 different countries in 6 years to be among the world's migrants and refugees, so that he could tell visual stories of their difficult journeys as they leave their homes for places unknown to them. Historically, this work takes place during massacres set in Africa and Latin America, as well as the ethnic cleansing in Europe. You can clearly see the fear and despair in the people's faces. I truly found this album to be saddening, but also hopeful that they found a better life. Lastly, we have Genesis, which was published in 2013. Sebastiao Salgado always has had a deep love and respect for nature, thus leading him to publish this album. Sebastiao Salgado shot in very little color before giving it up completely. He preferred the chiaroscuro palette of black and white images. Looking at these images in a technical perspective, it is apparent that all of the pictures in this album are shot in black and white and include photos of nature and landscapes. As you can see, there's a significant contrast between light and dark in these images, which allows his subjects to pop out more. His love for nature would become even more apparent when he and his wife started working on the restoration of the Atlantic forest. Now on to my riff. The photo on the left is a picture I took while flying over the Spanish Virgin Islands while on a trip to Puerto Rico. I modeled my image after Sebastiao Salgado's Genesis album. Like Salgado, I have a deep love and respect for nature and thought it appropriate to include one of my favorite photos taken while on this trip. Like Salgado, I made the contrast between light and dark very pronounced to allow certain details to pop out more. Finally, I chose to remove all color from my photo to model my image after the Genesis album because of Salgado's love for black and white photos. I think this choice worked out great for my photo because you can see that the shades of the water are very different, as well as the foliage on the island. I found it hard to express as much detail in my photo as Salgado's image, but I think overall I did a good job on using his style. In conclusion, Sebastiao Salgado has been recognized as one of the greats when it comes to photography. His photos have been featured in numerous press publications and books. His love of black and white photography has allowed us to see life in a different perspective, sometimes highlighting details we wouldn't have noticed if it was shot in color. His work Migrations in Other Americas, as well as Workers, has allowed us to see life outside of our daily lives in America, showing us the true colors of the world beyond our waters. His work Genesis has shown us the beauty of our planet and highlights the fact that we must preserve this planet we call home. It has truly been an honor to be able to riff on Sebastiao Salgado's work.